Namo Rajendra, my dear Dharma friends and followers. Here I am presenting Vajrayana views and Vajrayana talk. On behalf of Vajrayana Federation, today I want to present you on the subject, the reality of human life. Until and unless if we could understand the reality of our life, we could not succeed to get relief from the sufferings. That's why in our life, we should know the reality of our life. That is, reality of human life. To understand the reality of human life, people in this world are prone to be selfish. Definitely, being a human being, mostly people are very selfish and unsympathetic to others. They do not know how to love and respect one another. They argue and quarrel over trifling affairs only to their own harm and sufferings, and life becomes but a dreary round of unhappiness. Because of unhappiness, it creates problems, it creates sufferings to them. Regardless of whether they are rich or poor, it doesn't matter, but they worry about money. They suffer from the poverty and they suffer from wealth because their lives are controlled by greedy desires. They are never content, never satisfied with the property. A wealthy man worries about his estate if he has one. He worries about his mansion and all over possessions. He worries lest some disaster befall him. His mansion burned down, robbers break in, kidnappers carry him off. Then he worries about death and the dispositions of his wealth, and indeed his way to death is lonely and nobody follows his death. But in the case of a poor man, he always suffers from the insufficiency, and this serves to soak in endless desires to him for land and a house to stay safely. Being inflamed with covetousness, he wears out both his body. But his mind, his body, and he comes to death in the middle of his life. The whole world seems pitted against him, and even the path to death seems lone, as though he has a long journey to make and no friends to keep with company when he is going to die. He is dying. So now here is an example. There is the lack of a clear demarcation between the rights for a father and a son, between elder and brother, a younger, between a husband and a wife, between a senior relative and a younger. On every occasion, each one desires to be the highest and to profit of the other, to gain to himself and to offer benefit to the others. They cheated each other. There is deception and a lack of sincerity. So it creates sufferings to them. In this way, there is the lack of a clear demarcation as to the behavior between men and women too. Everyone at times has impure, lascivious thought to desire that lead them into questionable acts and often into dispute, fighting for the justice and weakness. In the same way, there is the tendency of people, for people to disrespect to others, the right of others, to exaggerate their own importance at the expenses of others, to set bad example of behaviors and being unjust in their speech, to deceive, slander, and abuse others. These are the reality of human life. In the same way, there is the tendency of people to neglect their duties towards others. Only they want to have their own profit, they want to have their own benefit. They think too much of their own comfort and their own desires. They forget to the favor and they have received and cause annoyance to others that often passes into great injustice. People should have more sympathy for one another. They should respect one another for their good traits in the same way and help one another in their difficulties, but instead they are selfish and hard-hearted, despise one another for their fallings and dislike others for their advantages. These aberrations generally grow worse with him with the time, and after a while become intolerable. These feelings of dislike do not soon end in act of violence, yet they poison life with feelings of hatred and anger that become so deeply carved into the mind that people carry the marks into the cycle of reincarnation. Then they get the sufferings. So the law of cause and effect is universal. It's a universal truth. This is the reality of human life. Each man must carry his own burden of his sin, evils. Due to evils, he must carry the sin, must go along its retribution. And the same law of cause and effect controls good deeds if he did do good one. A life of sympathy and kindness will result in the good fortune and happiness. This is the reality of human life. But nobody thinks. Only they desire much more to acquire by oneself, besides to giving and besides to help others. It is natural in the world of suffering for people to think that and act selfishly, egoistically, and because of it, it is equally natural for sufferings and unhappy to follow. People favor themselves and neglect others. People let their own desire run into greed and lust and all manner of evil. Because of these, they must suffer from endlessly. Again and again, because of the sin, they got reward. So, in this way, times of luxury do not last long, but pass away very quickly. Nothing in this world can be long enjoyed by selfishness. Therefore, people should cast away while they are young and healthy all their greed and attachment to worldly affairs and should seek earnestly for true enlightenment. For there can be no lasting reliance of happiness apart from enlightenment. They lament and cry about their sufferings, entirely misunderstandings the significance their present act have upon their following lives. And the relation their sufferings have to the act of the previous lives, they think only present desire and the present sufferings. From time infinite, incalculable numbers of peoples have been born into this world of delusion and suffering, and they are still being born. It is fortune, however, that the world has the Buddha's teachings and that men can believe in them and be helped. Therefore, people should deeply think, should keep their minds pure and bodies well, should keep away from the greed and evil, should seek good. That's why we should know, we should understand the compassionate, we should know the Chatu Brahma Bihar, we should follow the path of Chatu Brahma Bihar, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upeksha. Because of these Chatu Brahma Bihar and actions to obey the Panchashila and walking through the Arya Ashtangik Marga, then we could get relief from sufferings. This is the Buddha path. We should know the reality of peace, not the greediness and more desires. We should follow the path of Buddha. That's why these are all for today's Vajrayana views and Vajrayana talk. Thank you very much, my Dhamma friends and followers. Sarva Prakaram Jagat Satto Hitai Pavatu Sarva Mangalam.